Imagine a room full of hells, angelsmen who pride themselves on being the world's most feared bikers. But mention one name, and the bravado vanishes. Eyes go quiet. Jawlines lock. There's a club so savage, so unpredictable, that even the Hell's Angels avoid war. Today, you and I are pulling back the curtain on the untouchable motorcycle club that makes legends tremble. Real quick before we dive in, everything here comes from public records, court documents, and long-standing reporting. We don't glorify or promote crime. Analyze it so riders like you understand the world that rides beside you. If you're down for raw, truth told straight, hit subscribe now and drop a ready in the comments. Let's roll. You already know the outlaw pecking order runs on two fuels: respect and fear. At the top of the legend board sit the so-called big for Hell's Angels, outlaws, bandidos, pagans. They set the tone for decades. But there's one club that doesn't play by their rulebook. One club that doesn't just want territory, it wants domination. Meet the Comanchero Motorcycle Club, founded in Australia in 1968. The Comancheros weren't born from boozy rebellion or post-war brotherhood. Their founder, William George Jock Ross, shaped them like a paramilitary unit. Discipline, hierarchy, a code where loyalty is law and mercy is weakness. Where other clubs passed around beers, this one passed around orders. Father's Day, 1984, Milpera, Australia. A biker swap meet hums with families and chrome. Then the air rips. What began as an internal power struggle Comanche, defectors forming the first Australian banditos, chapter burst into the bloodiest shootout in biker history. Reports describe military-grade weapons, tactical positioning, volleys in broad daylight. When the smoke thinned, 7 lay dead, including a 14-year-old girl. The event goes down in history by one haunting name: the Milpera Massacre. It wasn't chaos. It was a message. The Comancheros play for keeps, and the underworld heard every word. Here's what separates them. Many outlaw clubs recruit from the same pool. Tough guys, street soldiers, party-hard lifers. The Comancheros, according to investigators and court files across years, recruit like a Black Ops unit. Ex-military who know Smalunit tactics. Sometimes former law enforcement who understand procedure and pressure. People with specialties you don't expect on a patch. Finance, international shipping, digital comms. Professional criminals who treat risk like math. Prospects, by most accounts, don't just hang around the iron-filtered. Initiations are harsh. Structure is military. National president, vice president, sergeant at arms, treasurer roles, and tightly compartmentalized information. If one piece falls, the body doesn't collapse. Betrayal? Rare and, by all reputable reporting, dangerous, dangerous. Most clubs spread by culture rides, backyard cookouts, the slow bleed of influence. The Comancheros spread like a campaign. In New Zealand, they didn't just arrive. They absorbed, flipped, or crushed smaller gangs, pulling talent and territory into a single spine. In Europe, investigators say they executed something far more surgical. Partnerships, Turkish, Albanian, sometimes Italian organized crime entities that run ports, logistics, and networks. The Comancheros offered muscle, discipline, and structure in exchange for access and freedom of movement. Now you hear of chapters and associates operating in Germany, Turkey, the Middle East, and beyondids, on a network connected by planning rather than posters. Each node governed by strict standards, enforced with fear. And then there's the part that rattles even seasoned cops. For many outlaw clubs, crime funds the lifestyle. Bikes, bars, real estate, the myth. For the Comancheros, investigators describe the opposite. Crime is the lifestyle. Methamphetamine pipelines from Asia to Australia and into Europe. Money washed through clean construction, security, import-export, and auto shops. Weapons trafficking, extortion, contracted violence. On paper, some businesses look legit. On asphalt, they're perfect fronts: money in, money out, metal modified. Vehicles built with compartments you don't spot unless you know exactly where to knock. Enforcement is not bar fight muscle. It's trained intimidation, surveillance, counter-surveillance, knowledge of explosives. Knowledge of where cameras are and where they aren't, not bikers doing crime, operators using bikes. Old-school bikers met in bars and back rooms. The Comancheros moved the clubhouse to the cloud. Encrypted apps. Burners that die on schedule. Cryptocurrency that hops time zones while the rest of us are still counting bills at the counter. They coordinate shipments, launder money, and track rivals with digital precision. Police adapt. They adapt faster. You've heard the headlines. Large-scale operations where law enforcement compromised encrypted devices, leading to sweeping arrests and seizures. For a moment, it felt like the hammer finally hit the nail. But within months, new leadership pockets appeared. New comms protocols surfaced. New alliances formed. Resilience is not a slogan here. It's a strategy. Shut a door. Build another. Block a route. Reroute the river. So why do even Hell's Angels, famous for fearlessness and fury, hesitate? Because for all their own history of violence, they still play by a code. They calibrate. They weigh optics. They nurture the brand. The Comancheros say rivals and detectives are wired differently. Less ceremony, fewer limits. If you're an enemy, you're a target. Civilians. In the wrong moment, collateral. Violence isn't the last resort. Sometimes, it's the first. Where most clubs try to avoid widespread public blowback, the Comancheros have, at times, leaned into terror as strategy. Car bombings, drive-by shootings, public assassinations act not just to eliminate a rival, but to send a message no one can miss. In that world, reputation is currency. And nothing spends like fear. Let's pause at the midway and do what this channel does best. Make the chaos useful. If this deep dive is opening your eyes, hit like so the algorithm shows it to someone who needs the wake-up call. And drop a comment with the one question you still have about Outlaw Worski. Pinning the sharpest one and answering it in our next video. Subscribe if you want the kind of breakdowns that respect your intelligence. Law enforcement isn't naive. They've learned to fight scale with scale. Task forces that cross borders. Stings that run for years. Operation Ironside was one of those lightning strikes. International cooperation. Compromised encrypted devices, hundreds of arrests, millions seized, supply chains mapped. For a heartbeat, it looked like checkmate. But the same reports that celebrated the moment also warned what would come next. Adaptation. Decentralized leadership. Rotate comes more often. Recruit talent that understands not just back roads, but back doors in software. In interview rooms, you can hear the frustration slip through a detective's teeth. The most resilient criminal organization we've ever seen. That's not a Wethiot's fatigue. Violence for this club isn't Chaucet's calculus. A car bomb here isn't random. It's a punctuation mark at the end of a sentence only a few people can read. A drive-by, there isn't sprayed anger. It's a postcard to a rival that says, "We know where you eat. We know when you sleep. We know how to make you move." Public assassinations. They're meant to collapse more than a person. They collapse confidence. Witnesses dry up. Rivals surrender or flee. Even officers step slower, call for backup earlier, plan thicker. That's not about winning the fight in front of you. That's about controlling the game. Zoom out, and you see the future of organized crime staring back. Corporate recruitment pool, with resumes, not rap sheets. Military structurals, with responsibilities and redundancies. Digital operations comms currency. Logistics, tracked with dashboards, not bar tabs. Global reach chapters that talk like franchises and move like cells. Other gangs are already copying the playbook, trying to graft tech onto leather. Spreadsheets onto roadmaps. The brotherhood myth isn't gone. It's being repurposed as camouflage for an organization that thinks like a corporation and hits like a strike team. And reputation. It's the invisible asset that multiplies every other asset. The Kaman Karo name appears on patches from Australia to Europe and the Middle East. The legal status and activities of any specific chapter vary Westby place and time, but the reputation travels faster than planes. Whisper Kaman Karo in the right room and the temperature drops. Even angels, in quiet corners, have been quoted over the years saying a version of the same line. Those guys are crazy. They'll do anything. When the most feared bikers call you crazy, you've crossed a line most won't approach. Here's the part that matters to you. The rider who loves the road but likes to keep life legal and clean. Don't confuse culture with crime. 99% of riders are like you. Gear up, ride out, get home. But know the edges of the map. There are meets where kids run between bikes and the only argument is over the best burger. And there are nights where the air feels electric and eyes get narrower by the minute. When your gut says, take the long way home, take it. Respect is a rider's best armor. Discretion is a close second. Now let's stitch the story together with a timeline you can feel in your bones. You start with 1968, Australia. A club built from the ground up like a unit. Orders, not vibes. Then, 1984, Father's Daimler internal fracture explodes into a public war zone. 7 dead, a country staring at TV screens in horror. The brand is forged, not in chrome, but in blood. The years that follow aren't a drunken stagger. They're a methodical climb. Recruitment shifts, not more, but better specialists, veterans, people with skill sets you hire for a company, not a club. Expansion doesn't chase headlines. It chases leverage. New Zealand filled in. Europe opened via relationships with existing underworld power. Business hardened, product in, money clean, threats enforced. Tech arrived, and the clubhouse scattered into pockets of encrypted signal and numbers that evaporate when needed. Police hit back hard. The club bent and did not break. That's the pattern. That's the chill. What does law do from here? Exactly what you'd expect. Learn, unify, modernize. More cross-border operations. More financial targeting. More focus on tech following money, mapping messages, watching the invisible roads. And still, you'll hear the same refrain. Close yon door, another opens. The strategy for the rest of us isn't to play. It's to understand. Outlaw lore sells a story that's stuck in the 70s. The present is more complicated and more dangerous. You might be thinking, okay, but are they really untouchable? Every organization bleeds when you cut it deep enough and long enough. But here's the edge the Comancheros have cultivated. Reputational gravity. Fear shortens fights. It shrinks witness pools. It bends rivals into truces they hate, and it makes police plan like they're crossing a minefield. That gravity buys time. Time to move money. Time to move leadership. Time to move on. If this breakdown hit hard, tell me the moment that stuck scene or detail that made you feel the temperature change. Drop it in the comments. I read them, and your best takes shape what we cover next. And if this is the kind of research, writing, and respect for Thodin you want more of, smash subscribe and ring the bell. We go deeper than the rumor. We keep it real, we keep it legal, and we keep it useful. Let's finish where we began inside, that room of Hell's Angels with iron faces and steady hands. You whisper one name, Kamen Kuro, the air shifts. Because sometimes even apex predators recognize a new apex threat. Maybe that's the real lesson. In a world that worships tough, the toughest thing isn't the loudest roar, it's the coldest plan. Ride legal. Ride alert. Ride yours. And remember, out here, the road isn't just pavement. It's a story, and not all of it is yours to join. If you want more shocking rides through the outlaw world's rivalries, the hidden histories, the coded signals, subscribe now. What club, what feud, what mystery should we expose next? Drop it below and join the Ride Secrets crew. 2 wheels down, eyes open. I'll see you in the next one.